chance to seal it. It's done. It's Georgie Kelly. Rotherham United's pathway back to the Championship is opening up.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to New York Talk. This is the Rotheham United podcast. Thank you all for being with us tonight. Plenty to cover. Plenty to cover. We have the defeat on Tuesday night to Preston. We have the international call-ups, which we will talk about a lot. And we have a game on Saturday. Big game on Saturday against Cardiff City. So plenty to cover. Anybody watching YouTube will see we've gone full Sweden tonight. We've gone full Sweden. We've got the shirts, we've got the flags, we've got everything up. If you don't know why, I don't know where you've been, but we'll talk about it later. Mick, how are you doing? You got a Sweden shirt that fits, which is nice for you.
I've got one on the left shoulder here that doesn't fit, and one on my fat torso that does. So happy days.
Was that the one we were meant to give away that you were wearing?
No.
We've got another one to give away?
No.
Oh. Okay.
We could give it away because I've got a T-shirt underneath, so it's not actually, you know.
We'll talk about that later. I think we should give it away. But anyway, Danny's back with us as well. Again, full Swedish attire, as it should be on a night like tonight.
Absolutely. I believe that makes Victor get my stats right here. The first player in the 21st century to be called up for Sweden whilst at Rotheham United.
I think could be the first one ever, but I'm sticking to 21st century because that's as far as I got record search wise. Fair enough. We'll talk about that later on. We will cover it in a bit more detail. We've got to play with us. First of all, Kimbo Sports with us. Kimbo Sports with the comments. Hello, Kimbo Sports. They said, get involved, ask questions. Mick, fan Mick. Yes, please. They said, one lucky viewer tonight will win a free New York Talk cap, courtesy of Kimbo Sports. Ooh. So, be funny because they might pick you. I don't know. Terry's with us. Ask why pick the same losing side from the first half. Tuesday, yes. Not. Let's just talk about the game, I suppose. Let's just get on with it. 2-1 defeat, Mick. Home to Preston North End. It's tough because it was a poor performance again. That's 2 in a row now. And as I was just putting in the comments there, I think that's a valid point. Starting with the same team that performed so badly in the first half at Birmingham struck me as a bit confusing, really. I thought Washington came on and did a good job in the second half. That would have made sense to maybe start that way, change something. I just thought it was a bit of a continuation.
There's no bit of it about it. It was a perfect continuation. If there hadn't been 2 or 3 days in between, you'd have thought it might have been the same game. Because I said this when we played Blackpool. The midfield in front of the back four looks all over the place, and I don't know whether it's something to do with the way certain teams are setting up against us. I alluded to this in the last podcast that it appears that the style that Matt Taylor's wanted to play is quite easily found out by the opposition. We were just dog awful, weren't we?
Yeah.
We were I think you said it throughout the game, a couple of times throughout the game. Nobody had any composure on the ball whatsoever. The only player that tried to be a little bit more composed was Cam Humphreys, and he managed to get himself in trouble a few times. It was difficult to watch.
Yes, it was. Powerword UK says if Peltier and Harding start on Saturday, it's taking a tenner on us to lose. I mean, let's deal with the first goal, Danny. I've still not seen a proper angle, to be honest with you. I can't say whether it's offside or not. We don't get an angle for that, I don't think. There are question marks because it's on Wes's side again. Wes again didn't have the best first. I thought second half we were all right, to be honest. But the partnership of Peltier and Harding as a right side centre back and a right back hasn't worked, and I think that needs to change.
Yeah, it does. Just want to give a little shout out to Troopers Travels, who I bumped into in the North Stand at the time. Nice little travelling pun here because I think their player travelled offside for the first goal. I mean, watching it back, you can sort of see why the lino thought he was onside, because Wes does come very close to his man and comes out of line with the rest of the defence, but I think he's offside. I think he's offside. I mean, that lino in front of East Stand had a wobbly game at best. I've spoken to a couple of people who are referees, and they've gone, no, he's had a shocker that game. There's a picture come out of the ball outside of the corner circle, and it's like, oh, the shadow of the ball is in the circle. It's like, no, it's not. It's not in the circle. Anyway, but yeah, going back to Wes and Peltz, I think you're right. It's two players who are right-sided and defensively minded, both trying to occupy the same position when they're playing in different positions. And that's where we're going wrong. We're playing a right-back and a right-back who can operate as a centre-back. Don't get me wrong, Peltz can operate as a centre-back, but he just sort of is more right-back inclined at times, and that's where him and Wes get muddled up, because sometimes they try and do the same job, and then other times they don't do the job at all. And I think that's how Wes has got caught out. They've both not done the job. Wes has then tried to recover, which has then brought him out of line with the rest of the defence, which has then led the lino to think he's onside when I don't think he is. And it's just a muddle up, I think. But it's a muddle up that I can understand, because it's all a little bit patchwork, especially with Bailey Wright being a bit iffy. And Morrison being out for the rest of the season. So for me, it's poor, but it's like taping over why it's poor. It's poor because we don't have two proper centre-backs, if you like. So it's not that big of an issue because we're making do. My only critique is that now that it's Wes with a couple of poor performances, I think it's time for Johansson to come in.
Quite possibly.
Because when he came into the game, I thought he had an impact. He wasn't the best, don't get me wrong, he wasn't the best, but he offered something different, which was crossing the ball, and we didn't really have much of that. And I think that caught out a few players later on, that Johansson was crossing the ball, but there was no one in the 6-yard box really attacking it. So it's like, maybe switch that sub around, start Johansson, and if he's not doing the best, then bring Wes on. But,
Yeah. I think Peltier's covering mix. Let's be right about it. If Grant Hall's fit, Grant Hall's playing there. If Bailey Wright's fit, Bailey Wright's playing there. If Tyler Blackett's fit, Tyler Blackett's playing there. Peltier's playing there as you're talking almost fifth choice centre back from Peltier.
Yeah.
And the problem for me with Peltier is I think he is the best right back at the club. I don't think there's a question about that. I believe Peltier is the best right back, and he can do a job at centre half when the right back is on form. And now we all know how good Wes can be, but right now Wes is bang off it. And that has a knock-on effect because Peltier needs help because he's not naturally centre-half and he's not getting that help because Wes is not at the minute performing. And it's all just a knock-on effect from all this. For me, they don't work together.
No, they don't. They don't. Lee Peltier, as you quite rightly point out, he's a right back. He's not a centre half. And what we're missing in that back four there is somebody who's going to organise it. That first goal was down to a complete lack of organisation, because if you look at the images, obviously from our position in the stand, it was difficult to see because we're almost at the other end of the ground. If you look at the images, Wes is marking a man. He's marking the wrong man, but he has to mark that man because Lee Peltier is not marking that man. He's marking a man in front of him. So there's nobody there organising it, The player that came in and headed the ball across has run from very, very deep. So Wes is not going to be close to him. He's not going to be marking him because he's 3 or 4, maybe 10 yards outside the 18-yard box before the ball, before the ball comes in. But it's just a lack of organisation is what it is. Nobody's looking along that line from the defence and picking up the right man. Nobody out of that back four is picking up their man. They're all picking up somebody else's, if that makes sense. We need somebody in there organising it. And it's just not happening. Lee Peltier is not going to do that. It would appear he's not that kind of player, but he's not, like we said, he's a right back, not a centre half. So, yeah, it's tough. It's tough, and it was poor. There's no doubt about it. We're poor.
Yeah, it feels maybe, Dan, there is a lack of leadership at the team. And again, this is not necessarily a dig at Matt Taylor because he signed leaders. He brought people in January who are leaders on the pitch. Sean Morrison's like Billy Wright as a leader as well. He's brought in these players to do that job, and they're just getting injured. But we are lacking that. We're lacking somebody in the midfield. I mean, Yelder was a really good example. I thought in the second half, Yelder completely lost his head. He just had a 10-minute spell where he just seemed to forget how to play football a little bit, and he just needed somebody to grab him and just send him right again. And there's nobody on the pitch at the minute to do that, and there's nobody just to take the game out and go, come on. Dare I say Richard Wood?
Oh, good timing that, because he just started and the phone started ringing, so I'm glad I muted my mic, or else you won't be able to hear you. But yeah, I mean, it's just it's a very unfortunate coincidence that we've signed leaders in Morrison, Wright, Hall, even Rathbone to a point as well, and they've suddenly all gone down, and then suddenly, like you said, there's a leadership issue. Yeah. Woody would be all right to bring in if it was both a defensive soundness in terms of playing ability and leadership that, like, where they both don't go hand in hand, if you like. But unfortunately, Woody, Matt Taylor sees him just not operating in our back line because we don't operate as a three. We saw that yesterday, and sometimes don't even make the squad with it. It's like, for example, he's more keen on Tyler Blackett now, just because he suits the way we play a little bit more. That's not a dig at Woody, it's just how we're operating at the minute. And I think, phone's ringing again, it's me, it'll be my granddad, that, right on time. But yeah, I think if we're safe come Middlesbrough game, I think we'll see Woody again. However, Matt Taylor's job is to keep us up, and to keep us up, we play his system, which unfortunately doesn't involve Woody. Woody's job, as I've said before, is in the dressing room being the leader, which I think is why we were a little bit buff, because Woody felt a few of the collars and gone, right, we need to get it going now. But Peltier is meant to be that leader. We've seen it before, him geeing everybody up after the match and saying well done and stuff. But if he's the one that's getting lost, that's where the breakdown in leadership is, especially without Rathbone or Wright or Hall or anything. I think it's one of them where it should really be next man up, but no one's really took command of it, if that makes sense. Yeah. It's like I think Hugo's took command of it up top, but I think you still need that up top captain in Hugo and someone at the back to organise it. And just as it stands right now, we don't really have that person, even though Peltier is your next sort of choice. Even he's not there. I wouldn't say Victor, as much as we all love him and we've all got a Sweden tops on, isn't quite at that organisation, getting everybody geared up stage of leadership. It's just a collection of unfortunates and errors that tie hand in hand, and that's where we are. If you step back from really pinpointing it on one player and looking at the overall machine, it's a little bit, you can see where that issue's come from, etc., etc. For me, we should be all okay after the international break, because we'll have Ollie back, Wilesy will be nearly back, Keener will be nearly back. Wilesy's still a little bit of a leader because it's his club, you know. And then Wright's not far away, same with Hall, and etc., etc. So we should be all right. It's just finding that man to really pin the leadership tag on at the minute, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. Josh Hinsley says, was it Gareth Ainsworth football playing Preston? We'll come on to that briefly. Phil says, no key in the midfield and the lack of possession still haunts us, which comes to the looking after the ball issue. John Morrell says, I think this is a good point. Leadership is one thing, but they've also got to be good enough and contribute to the team. Being a leader isn't enough. And we're not going to go over the Richard Wood debate, but 4 at the back doesn't suit Woody, as we've already mentioned. John Morrell with another good point. Wes is probably a low-end championship player, top-end League One is what he is. Peltier was very good some year back, but clearly heading towards the end of his career. Is it really any surprise that they're struggling? I suppose not when you put it like that. Yeah, let's move on. Let's move on to the midfield, Mick. Let's talk about that angle. Let's have a moment of positivity. And laugh at how bad the defending was from Preston from the corner. Yeah. To be fair to Preston, I thought they were very solid. They had this one moment in lapse in concentration. Because Odoffin could have took the ball down. I'd done a couple of kick-ups and still had time to put the ball in the back of the net. But he had to put the ball in the back of the net, so you've got to give Odoffin credit for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Danny talked about it, and I think you did on the post-match, saying it was a bit of a scuffed finish, if you like. I mean, my recollection, and to be fair, I've not watched it back. It was an unstoppable header. But it looked like is what it looked like to me. It absolutely rocketed off his head and into back at neck. And to be fair, it was straight at the keeper, and it went straight through him.
It did go straight through him.
It was for me. It was a cracking finish. Really, really good corner. Plenty of pace on it. Some great movement from Odoffin to lose his man, who were probably still asleep now. And a really, really good finish. And that got us back into the game, and it lifted us a little bit.
Yeah.
But we just then reverted back to the way that we were playing before. And I've got my doubts. I've got my doubts about this the way we're setting up. I have genuinely, because we just, somebody's mentioned it in the comments, we just are all over the place. Absolutely all over the place. There didn't seem to be any organisation at all. It's really, really difficult to get your head around as a spectator exactly what we're trying to do. It just, I don't get it. I genuinely don't. So, but yeah, that's a real good goal.
Yeah, I mean, possibly we mentioned this earlier. I mentioned you earlier on the game that it was almost like the Wycombe game a year ago, and this. I mean, Preston are a much better team than that Wycombe, and they were much more adventurous than that Wycombe team. What I mean by that is that they were so defensively solid. They didn't give us a minute. They sat really, really deep. Mm-hmm. They just made it difficult for us, Danny. And whether it's the tip where Matt Tiller's trying to play, or whether it's the players that we've got, it seemed really difficult. It seemed almost impossible for us to do anything because they had that big lad at back. I can't remember his name now. The big 23 lad at back who mocked up everything aerially, and so every ball away in the box was not being won. There was no composure through the middle of the field. Foster had possibly his worst game for the club so far. It was just I can't work out exactly what the problem is, but when they sat deep, it just that were almost game over. We were never going to break them down in a million years.
Yeah, excuse me. It were almost at times that Preston had an extra man on the pitch, and I'm not talking about the referee for once. But yeah, I think it was partially how Preston set up, and like you said, they had the big lad at the back who nullified more or less everything we threw at them, other than the odd chance. But for me personally, watching, especially second half, watching the play build up from in our own half and coming forward, for me, it just wasn't quick enough. We just didn't move the ball quick enough. Yeah. I thought we moved the ball to the right side and effectively said to Chio, right, do something with it, and then never really gave him an option to do anything with it. Kyoso offered that option a bit when he came on. But in terms of like Fozzo in midfield, there were very little option creation from him, and we would just look very flat. Very flat and unenergetic, especially on the left side. When there was a throw-in on the left side, there was basically no movement for the ball whatsoever, which we don't like to see because normally we're quite an energetic team. So, yeah, it's just a bit... It's 6 of one, half a dozen at other. Yeah, it was partially Preston nullifying everything, but it was partially us not really creating anything. I mean, the biggest chance creation of the match is when Victor went up for a corner and clattered their keeper.
Oh, I did enjoy that, to be fair.
Yeah, that was quite good, to be fair. Also, thank you to Arlas for muting the clip that she sent to you a lot, because she showed it me since, and I have never heard my voice that high-pitched before.
Ian Bradley, Diaby, Preston North Ends 23. Yeah, it was immense. We didn't, and I say this in the nice way possible, Mick, and this is an issue, that he wasn't very quick, and we never really tried to exploit that. He didn't. He looked like a turning circle, sort of Harry Maguire, Grant Hanley type player, and we never. There was one time in the first half where I think Chio got the better of him pace wise. Other than that, we never tried to play in and around his feet. With that type of player, it's the same with Richard Wood. If you're just going to pump ball all day long, we're just going to gobble it up, and that's the type of. What chance has Hugo got realistically of winning those headers? It's such a small chance to do it. And is that a midfield problem, do you think? Or do you think it's just they were panicking because we were chasing the game almost all evening?
I don't know. I don't know, because I don't really know what they were trying to do. And I hark back to it, but I look, I've thought over the last couple of days, thinking back to the game. What could we have done differently? And I don't really know what we were trying to do, because we created next to nothing for the whole game. Likewise against Birmingham on the Saturday before, it was just, I don't know. We're just not doing. We're not, when we do get forward, we're not getting it. We're back to not getting the ball in the box again, to give anybody any scraps to feed off. But the midfield is essentially just missing. Connor Coventry had a poor game. Fosu, like you say, had probably his worst game for the club. He could have touched like Margary's door. I've used that before about Tom Eaves, but every time the ball went to him, it just bounced off him again. He didn't track back. There were a couple of times when he lost the ball and just jogged back. Ben would have been having kittens had he been watching that. We talk about Chio and we're trying to work the ball down the right hand side. Too many times, particularly in that second half, Chio is unmarked, but his position is really, really poor. If he gets the ball given to him, he's not going to be putting himself in an attacking position, because his position is not right. He's either dropping too deep, or he's too high up the pitch and too wide. So I don't know. I don't know what to say. It's difficult. It really is, because teams have obviously decided, well, if that's how you're going to play, we're just going to sit deep. You're not going to get through us, because you have no intention of putting the ball in the box anyway, and you haven't got the ability to play through us. So we're just going to sit here and we'll pick you off, and that's what's been happening.
Yeah. Chris Page says, has Matt Taylor worked out his style yet after all these games? Was so easy to get broke down. We can be at times, yeah. Trooper Travels the Rush Explorer only tried to play the last 17 minutes of the second half, and to be fair, we were quite embarrassing. Let's talk about Connor Coventry briefly, Danny, because I sort of feel sorry for him, but it was everything that was wrong with us on Tuesday, and that sounds really harsh, but if you're going to play in central midfield, you're going to come under criticism when you play like that. He doesn't look after the ball, or on Tuesday, he didn't look after the ball anywhere near enough. I'm not expecting him pinging it left, right, and centre. But if you're playing in that sitting role, you've got to be able to look after it. If you need to go backwards and take the easy pass back to Humphreys or Victor, take the easy pass. But he was consistently losing the ball in pretty dangerous areas as well. And when you've got that, you've then got no momentum, because the gap between defence and midfield is broken essentially. I really want it to come good for Connor Coventry. I think there's something there, but we're really not seeing anything positive at the minute.
Yeah, I mean, when he's playing well, I've seen people describe him as prime Richie Smallwood when he's been with us, when he was with us. But yeah, he just seems just to, like you say, not be a good link in the chain between defence and attack. But then you could say a few players are like that, especially with losing possession in dangerous areas. But I think Coventry may have just personified it.
Yeah,
I think, and noticed it more because, he is the midfield man, if you like. I'm seeing comments about why not Lindsay before Coventry. Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. But we don't know what appearance clause he's in Coventry's loan with us, so that could be a factor. I would like to see a midfield that has Lindsay starting in it, because that may, yeah, like I say, energy, different dynamic, a bit more of a terrier, goes after the ball, a bit more oomph from the beginning. Yeah, it's a strange one with Coventry. It's a little bit like Fosu in a sense, because Fosu is bright as a spark some games, but other games they're basically not there.
Yeah,
it's why they're on loan with us, if I'm being honest. But I just want to see more from Connor Coventry. We've said it before, time and time again. We just need to see more from him. If we see more from him and he really gets his head into a game and really concentrates, he is a very, very good player, and you can see why he's come through a Premier League's academy. But then again, other times like this, it's like is he championship quality? But that's the differential, isn't it, with loan players? They're either screaming good or horrifically bad.
Yeah.
And it's only when they find that consistency that they find the level. For example, look at Barlasser.
Well, yeah.
In his first 4 or 5 months with us, and then he found his game, if you like, and then cracked on with us.
Yeah. John Simpson, is it confidence with him? It could very well be. Ryan S sort of backed that up by saying he likes Coventry, but it looks out of his depth. He looked anxious on the edge, on the edge, and when he gets the ball, never nice to see a young player play like that. It's not the problem is, Mick, that's not the type of player that normally does well for Rugby United. Look at the good midfielders we've had, not even the best, the good midfielders we've had. They're a bit more combative, and I'm not sure Coventry's got that to his game to the extent like I do think he is similar to Richard Smallwood, but he's not as brave as Richard Smallwood, is he?
No, he's not. He's not, and he's got a Premier League career to think about. Well, the last thing he wants to do is go dive into challenges and getting himself injured. I think is probably what's on his mind. And he's a young lad. You know, he'll definitely cut it. There's no doubt about it. But at the moment, it's not working. Or what he is being asked to do is not working. Whether that is his normal position, I don't really know, to be honest. But he's not on his own. It didn't work for anybody. No. It didn't work for anybody over the last 2 games. You know, there's only realistically, there's only Victor comes out of the last 2 games with any sort of credit.
Humphries to an extent.
Yeah, Humphries to a degree, but again, he's been making mistakes, uncharacteristic mistakes, getting himself into difficult positions when he could have offloaded the ball a lot earlier. So, you know, I don't know. It's tough. It's tough, and it's always a bit depressing after 2 performances like that on the bounce, particularly when certainly the Birmingham game we should have been getting something out of that. Definitely, in my view, with the greatest respect to John, you know, that's the way that we've been playing and the results that we've been getting. You would have hoped to have at least come out of that game with a draw, at least. But we didn't even lay a glove on them. No. But again, it's another team that sat deep, as did Blackpool. We struggled against them as well. So, you know, he's going to have to change it up if teams are going to play like that against us. He's going to have to alter it, which he did. To be fair to him, in second half,
it didn't work, did it?
Well,
for that first 20 minutes of second half, we barely touched ball.
Yeah, but we put a lot more pressure on them towards the back end of that half. But they were sitting back, weren't they, and happy with the 2-1 win and rolling about on the floor. So, you know, they got the game won at that point.
Yeah, definitely. Chris Page says Lindsay must have kicked Matt Taylor's cat or something. Can't get a start no matter how we perform. And also, Josh used with a very, very, very valid point. Got to think that Coventry had tonsillitis before Birmingham, so there's a possibility he may still be recovering as well. But if he is still recovering, that makes you think, why is Lindsay not playing? So then that takes away the criticism from Conor Coventry. It puts it onto Matt Taylor.
Then it makes you think of appearances in his loan contracts.
Yeah. This is a really sort of simple question, Danny. How much are we missing Ollie Rathbone?
A lot. I'm being honest, a lot. I mean, I said I was on Radio Chef before the Birmingham game, and they asked the exact same question: how much of a miss is Ollie Rathbone? Yeah, massive, because he is legit the engine in midfield. You know, Doffin's a bit more defensive minded. Conor Coventry is Smallwood-esque at times. Ben Wales was quite a force in midfield before he was injured, but Ollie's he's been Mr. Consistent the whole time he's played. He's not really had an off game, which is somewhat astonishing for a player of his caliber, if you like. And I can't wait for him to get back in the team. I think as soon as he's fit and able and effectively able to walk on grass, he should be back in the team. I know that won't be the case because sports science is a thing, but we can live it out that he's straight back in. And it's because he is the one who dictates the play. He picks the ball up and drives with it in midfield, or he can come back into defence and do his job. He can also dish it about across the middle line to the wide players. and just runs him sending to ground every single match. And I think that's what we're missing. We're missing that token box-to-box midfielder that really carries the ball there, but also carries the team back when needed, if you like. Plus he's now a bit of a leader when he's on the pitch because he's had the armband a few times and done very well with it. But he also gets in referees' faces. You know, I love this quality about him where he actually jumps up and down in front of the referee when he doesn't think a decision has been made correctly. I love that in a footballer. It's effectively throwing a fit at the referee without being disrespectful to the referee, if that makes sense. And I just think he's a massive miss. I really do. As soon as he's back in the team, we should be on our way again. But we played well in the first couple of games where we didn't have Ollie. But now it's showing that you can play well for a couple of games without that player. But as soon as the other teams start working out what your fix is not having that player, and then get that system effectively practiced on by other teams, that's when we start losing the results against him, as per Birmingham and now Preston. So, yeah, always a huge miss at the minute.
Yeah. Shelley says massively. Dean Kelly says missing Ollie loads. Shelley also says Grant Hall as well. Trooper Travel says we shouldn't be a one-man team. I mean, I don't think we are. I mean, we're missing Rathbone Mick. I think that's obviously clear. We're missing Ben Wiles, who was injured. I think Keener is a similar mould to that. I think maybe not as industrious as Ollie Rathbone, but a ball carrier, somebody who can move the ball forward. So 3 players who would do a similar type of job in terms of looking after the ball are all injured. And that is unlucky, to be fair. One's done his ankle, one's had an ongoing issue, and Ollie Rathbone's got a growing. They're all different types of injuries. It's just the wrong players out at the same time.
Yeah, it is. We've got loads of injuries. Every time somebody plays centre back, they go off injured. I'm amazed Peltier lasted as long as he did the other night. And poor old Tyler Blackett. I mean, he's come in. He's going to end up injured in 2 games. It's inevitable. You know, as soon as he plays more than 60 minutes, he's going to be limping off a hamstring, isn't it? It just seems to be the look that we're having at the moment. So. Yeah, the injuries are causing us loads and loads of problems, but then that's the same for everybody. It's that time of the season, you know. Then it starts to take its toll. So, but yeah, we miss Ollie. We're missing a midfield, to be honest. Yeah. We're spending large parts of the game where the midfield is actually missing. You know, and you just cannot play like that. So that's how it feels. That's how it feels. So it's tough, but it'll come right.
Hopefully. Throw mentions about the manager. Can we raise the manager who never shouts and gets his players during the game? I just don't think that. I don't think that's Matt Tiller's style to sort of shout at the players and stuff. He's more of a modern day coach where the shouting is less so. Look, if it works, if it keeps up at the end, who cares? But I understand that some people like that. I'm not fussed either way. To be honest, Shelley says, "Have we been seriously looking with injuries, or does somebody think something has changed on the training pitch?" I suppose we'll find out next season.
We had this conversation just about this time last season and the season before.
Who got injured last year? Before were somebody?
So again, we had it, and the previous manager came in for a load of flack at various parts throughout every season that we've just had when we had a lot of injuries, and sometimes in pre-season as well when we had some injuries pre-season. You know, footballers get injured. You know, and I don't think it's anything to do with the training or anything like that. You know, it's a massive, it's a tough schedule. You know, we've had that World Cup break in between as well, so that's tightened it up even more. And it's a very, very high level of football we're playing at here. Relatively speaking, you look across Europe, it's one of the top leagues in Europe. And injuries are going to happen. They happen to every single club, and I don't think it's anything necessarily to do with the training or anything else. It's just happens.
John says as well, it's the schedule from Birmingham. He says there's never seen anything like it as well. Yeah, it's crazy. Tyler Blackett though, Danny, he came on when we were chasing the game, so you can't really. I almost feel like you can't judge his defensive performance because he didn't do much defending after much defending. But from the bit we saw of him, did you feel like you were positive about him?
Yeah, I like the look of him so far. He's defensively solid, not made that many mistakes, but at the same time, we've not really seen much of him. You know, he's made 2 sub appearances in 2 games, but I do think when if he does start a game, maybe Cardiff, maybe sometime after the international break, who knows, he could be very defensively solid. I'd maybe like to say, I mean, on my fan hub, I had him at centre half with Peltier out on the right hand side. That could be a way forward until Wright or Hall or whoever's back. But yeah, he's I'll say this: he's not done out wrong. We'll say that he's not done out wrong, but he's not done out exceptional either. He's just been steady.
It's come on when we've been chasing 2 games, though, to be fair.
Yeah, and for someone to come on, like I say, whilst we've been chasing 2 games and still be steady enough to have not had a huge mistake, he's doing all right, isn't he?
Yeah, I agree. A few more comments. We've got any Jalen Simpson. It's a schedule. She tells her oldest off when she moans about Arsenal having 2 games a week. We have 3 and a much smaller budget. I mean, Mick, there you talk about the quality in the Championship. It is one of the best, one of the top, certainly the top 10 in Europe. And you look at the schedule. Nobody else in Europe plays 46 games plus the cup games. It's an unrivaled schedule in Europe, the football league. So adding to that World Cup break as well, it's going to happen. It's going to happen, unfortunately.
Suck it up. Suck it up. That's what happens.
Yeah, got to. The front 3 behind Hugo, Mick. Tariq Foster, we mentioned he had a poor game. I think he was very, very poor. The problem is that's not Tariq Foster's position. He's not a central player, and they doubled up on him. They certainly doubled up on him. He had absolutely no time and room on it, and that's going to happen if you put that type of player in the midfield, in the central role. It allows them to double up on him much easier.
Yeah.
I felt a bit sorry for him because at times he tried, at times he didn't try, like you said.
Yeah.
But he's the type of player that needs to be out there, out wide, in a bit of space, so he can try and create. He's the only one that's going to create anything, isn't he?
It feels that way, doesn't it? It does feel that way. And yeah, it needs to be. If they are going to double up on him, we can't have him through that centre. But then who do you put in there? I guess you're looking at a Dauphin to get in there with some physicality because they're not going to double up on him, are they? No. But then you're looking at whether Fergie gets dropped or what. I don't know. It's a conundrum for the managers to sort out. And we've seen how good Tariq Fosu can be through that middle when he gets a little bit of time on the ball. And to be fair, I just wonder whether he's another one of these players who sort of struggles with his confidence a little bit. That's how it felt the other night. His first touch, like I said, was appalling at times. And that's not, he's a much better player than that, clearly. So whether it's just knocked his confidence a little bit in these last 2 games, I don't know. But yeah, we need to be able to change it up. We've got to find a way of getting the ball in the box first of all, and giving the players up there something to feed off. We did that against QPR, and we scored 3. We started to improve when we started to put the ball in the box. We seem to have reverted back to post World Cup Rotheham United, don't we? Just at the worst time.
Michael Miller says, "Let's not moan about the schedule. This is English football. The reason why we love it with all its metal." Yeah, I'm not. Yeah. I'm certainly not complaining about the schedule. What I'm just saying, it's a factor in the injuries. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
As pointed out, a few people in here, we do like it. Yeah, Shelley says yelled at an off day. Certainly, the second half he did.
He lost it.
And the problem is, Danny, that when Cohen Bramall comes on, it was just as bad. And I think Cohen Bramall confidence looks to be completely on the floor. I don't know what is wrong. When he came on, he didn't want to take on a man, even though he's twice as fast. He didn't want to put a ball in. He looked like at times he didn't want to receive the sodding ball. And we know how dangerous this kid can be. It's really strange.
Yeah, it is. But a few people have said he plays astonishingly and then has a few off games. I I know we talk about him playing him out with position and such, but he has also done very well in that cam position. So I think it's just an unfortunate occurrence that players are having off days, and then a few key players are injured. It comes around. It used to come around February time, so it's a bit later on this time of year, isn't it? But yeah, I mean, John said it's happening at Birmingham as well, and because we've only got a small squad, you sort of notice the injuries more. If that makes sense. But yeah, it's just off days, isn't it? We all have off days.
Yeah.
It's not really about how much of a off day you have. I think in football, it's more of it's how quickly you recover from an off day, so it doesn't become an off week, etc. And I think that's what the players need to focus on now.
You'd hope that there'd be a reaction after 2 games. You've got to expect a proper reaction. Ryan S., do you think it could be an attitude problem with Bramall? Potentially, but only one man that knows that. Well, 2 men, the manager and Cohen himself. Nicholas Skidmore. So frustrating because we are so close to the end of where we want to be. We just hope we don't blow it. Yeah, Blackpool winning 6-1 in one of the craziest results of the entire season, to be honest with you. I know QPR are bad, but 6-1 at home by Blackpool is just insane. Don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Last game before international break, we could either go. We could go in 8 points clear. We could go in 2 points clear. It's a big Saturday. Big Saturday. Let's twist it and talk about some positives, because it's always nice to have some positives to talk about. International call-ups have, I think, all been confirmed now. I don't think there's any expected on Friday. Could be wrong. Bailey Wright's been called up. Chio's got another call-up. Shane Ferguson, Conor Washington, as we already know about, and Yelda for the Norwegian under-21s. Bailey Wright, just to clear this up, Bailey Wright it will unlikely to play for Australia, but according to Matt Taylor, it's some sort of homecoming for how well they did at the World Cup. So either way, he's going back to Australia for like a party. And Australians like to party, I think. So we'll see what state he comes back in. The big one is Victor Johansson. Finally got his call up to the Sweden national team. We've been calling for this, I think, for about 18 months, to be honest with you. He goes from playing for Rotheham United to playing with Zlatan Ibrahimovic next week, which is quite incredible, to be honest with you. It's great, Mick. We're all sat here in the Swedish stuff, purchased the Swedish flag and all this stuff, because the reaction to Victor getting a call-up is one of the best I've seen from Rotherham fans. Everybody's just so happy about it, aren't they?
And rightly so as well. It's happy. We're happy because we've been so cross and angry previously that he hasn't got a call-up. It's embarrassing, really. But the fact that he's got it is just wonderful, wonderful news. So pleased for him. So pleased for him, because he's worked so hard, to get to the level that he's at now, and there's still more to come from the lad. So it's fantastic, and I'm sure, hopefully, he's not listening, but we've had sight of a picture of a very young Victor Johansson. I can't remember, more than 8 or 9 years old, with Zlatan Ibrahimovic, and then 15, 16 years later, there he is playing in the same team with him. It's schoolboy dream, isn't it? It's fantastic. So really, really happy for Victor. Really happy for him.
Yeah. Shelley says there isn't a more deserving player. Mike the Miller at the start said Victor's call up to the Sweden squad is the perfect tonic after a bleak few days on the pitch. Yeah. Victor is our player of the season, no doubt. Congratulations to him, and he says to Tobias and his family as well. I can only imagine the amazing thing. I can only imagine how proud Tobias feels as well. His lad playing for the national team. It must be so special. Danny, he's got a chance of being the keeper. He's got a chance of starting those 2 games that come up. Robin Olsen, who has been playing for, has not been playing for Villa, and the other keeper plays for AIK, who I watched him on Monday against Hammarby, and he wasn't very good. If it was the same guy. So Victor's got a real chance of playing against Belgium in their first qualifier. That would be amazing.
Oh yeah, it would, absolutely. I mean, we talked about Victor potentially being the first Swedish player to receive a call up for Rotherham United whilst at Rotherham United, which is crazy.
I think I'm going to put this out there, and somebody, this is a good time to do it in the comments. I think he is the first full-time Rotherham player to get an international call-up for a goal as a goalkeeper.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. Marek Rodak might have done, but obviously he was on loan. I don't think we've had a full-time Rotherham goalkeeper go on to play international football. I think ever.
Wow.
If somebody wants to correct me in that, I've racked my brain. Unless there's one in the 90s that played for a sort of a lower nation, I don't think we've had one.
Which if that's the case, I mean, I'm sure our fact checkers in the comment will have a look for us.
Correct.
But if that's the case, it makes it even more special. And I mean, this is the guy who we signed as a second keeper after Jamal Blackman when he first signed, and then for a time he dropped to third choice because we brought Vickers in. And he told us on the podcast that he lived in a hotel for a few weeks because of COVID restrictions. He had to wash his clothes in a sink, make his graft, get into the first team, and now I believe he's got the highest shot stoppage rate in the Championship, and potentially is the highest rated goalkeeper on Who Scored as well. So he is statistically one of the best goalkeepers in the Championship. It's just crazy, and his hours as well, and he signed a new contract. It's just amazing. I am really, really happy for Victor, because if anyone deserves a call up for his country, it's him.
Yeah, I completely agree. John Morell says Volson's first choice. Christ, the Mick should start over Olsen.
I think it goes like John.
Josh Insler says, imagine if he gets a call up for the World Cup or Euro. Well, the Euros are next summer. You would expect a team like Sweden to qualify for a major tournament such as that. We will obviously have to wait and see on that one. Can anyone tell me what we did to get Victor to sign a new contract? I honestly can't believe we managed it. It's crazy, and we clearly got in at the right time. If he hadn't signed it at Christmas, Mick, if we come into this now, if we come into it in March and he's got he's Sweden's number 2 or number 1, it's unlikely he's going to sign a new contract at that stage, isn't it?
Yeah, you would have thought so, wouldn't you? You would have thought so. But we talk about things like this all the time, but we never seem to really consider what the player wants, do we? We always sort of look at he could do better, or whatever. But Victor's obviously happy here. He's enjoying his time here. He's playing at a high level, like we've alluded to before. It benefits him to sign a contract because it's he's not out scratching for a club. Come the summer, if he goes anywhere else, it's going to be a club that actually wants him because they're going to have to pay money for him. So, but ultimately, he's happy. He's clearly happy with us. So, and he's got an international call up out of it. So, it's a win-win, isn't it? But yeah, I think we might have struggled. But you don't know. You don't know how long this has been in pipeline. So
no, that's true. John Morell says, do you think he will be a Rotherham player still by the Euros? If we're still in the Championship, why not? He would would be the first player playing for Rotherham United to be at a major tournament as well. Could be Chio as well, in the unlikely event he stays. With how big the Euros is now, a couple of smaller nations get through, don't they? Not that Sweden's a small nation, I should correct that, sorry. They're a proper footballing nation, to be fair. And that's what makes it a bit more impressive. This isn't San Marino or Northern Ireland, with the greatest respect to Shane Ferguson and Connor Washington. This is a proper team with Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Kulusevski at Spurs and Isaac at Newcastle. This is a team full of world-class players, which makes it even better, to be honest with you. As Matt Taylor mentioned, it's our badges alongside all those other badges in the announcement thing. Very good. We're so happy for Victor and Tobias, as we mentioned. It's and his family. It's great. Do you want to give that shirt away then, Mick?
Do I want to give it away?
Not right now. Don't take it off. Don't take it off. Do we want to give it? So this shirt is from Sweden. It's not an official Adidas Sweden shirt, but it's from Sweden with Viking on the back, signed by Victor Johansson.
It's effectively the one that's over my shoulder, but Mick's got it on.
Yeah. So look.
And then there should be one on the back as well.
How would you want to give it away? Should we get somebody to come and take it from us on Saturday at Cardiff?
I'm not going to Cardiff again, mate. I've been there once this season. It was one of the worst days in my life.
Against Cardiff.
I didn't get there, Mick, so that's an improvement.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you what, mate. I've been thinking back to that day. I wish to God my car had broken down or something like that. It was so bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Take the shirt with you on Saturday, Mick. And
yes.
Somebody, I'll tell you what, we'll think of a phrase. So Mick's going to take the shirt with him, and you've got to go up to Mick and say something. What do you want it to be? Do you want to give me a Swedish phrase so they've got to say something Swedish to you, and then they get the shirt? The first one, obviously.
I saw Tobias in the comments earlier on, so if Tobias is still listening, if he can come up with a phrase, Tobias, then we'll go with that. Okay.
We'll do that. If it doesn't come back to before the end of the show, we will think of another. I'll Google another Swedish phrase, but I like that. John Morrell, ref's had a blinder.
The ref has a no. Sorry, I'm going to say something inappropriate. Then I won't.
I will get a couple down. If Tobias don't come back to us, we will pick one before the end of the show. Yeah. Right. While I get onto that, Danny, let's talk about the Cardiff game on Saturday. It can't be worse than the game at Cardiff. I just don't think it can, because that was a horrific game of football. How big is the game? And this is really easy. I think it's easy for us to oversell it, but how big a game is it for both us and him? Them, sorry.
It's another 6-pointer, isn't it? I mean, we said Birmingham was a 6-pointer, and this is another one. Because Cardiff are more or less right behind us this time. And yeah, it's just, again, it offers just that little bit of a gap to the relegation place and could prove to be season defining, really, come the end of it. You know, we could get 3 points and stay up by 2, you know, and it could be down to the Cardiff game. Yeah, it's just massive, absolutely massive. But I do think the majority of the games now are massive, but Cardiff is one of the few that's left down near us until we get to Wigan. So, yeah, it could be a huge game. Huge game.
Yeah. What do you want to see, Mick? So this is really easy for me to say, to be honest with you. But what do you want to see from Rotherham United going forward in this game, in terms of changes as well, not just in terms of personnel? What do you want to see? Do you want to just see more intensity? Do you want to see it just playing the ball a bit more? Is there an idea which you think, right, this is the way we're going to get more points? Which is, I know it's tough for you to answer.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult, isn't it? Because you don't know how Cardiff are going to play. John Morrell mentioned in the comments there that when Birmingham played them, they put 10 men behind the ball and just hoofed it upfield. That's not a great sign for us. No. Because the teams that do that in the past, we've had trouble with. So he's going to have to change it up. He's going to have to. I don't think there's any doubt about that, because like we've just talked about for the last 53 minutes, you know, the midfield have been non-existent. The front players have not been given anything to feed off, and there's been a lack of organisation in the defence. So I can't see how he can maintain the same starting 11 that started the last two games. How he's going to do that, given the injuries that we've got and the personnel that are available to him, is anybody's guess. I don't know what to expect, if I'm honest. What I do know is as has already been said, it's a 6-pointer. It's a massive, massive game, this. Because come 5 o'clock on Saturday night, we could be well back in this relegation fight, or we could be well clear of it. You know, so it's a huge, huge game, and we owe Cardiff. We absolutely owe Cardiff for that last Championship season. You know, so it's just huge. The club have got kids for a quid and what have you, so there should be a few more people coming through the gate. We've got to play our part on Saturday. We really have, and get behind them no matter what. And hopefully we're going to get a result out of it. But it's a must-win game for me now. This.
Just correction. Mike Miller, Kellum O'Hara. I think somebody else mentioned this comments. Kellum O'Hara was a Miller when he played for the Republic of Ireland against Israel in 1987. So there you go. Victor Wilson.
Kellum O'Hanlon.
What did I say?
O'Hara.
Oh, O'Hanlon. Apologies.
Yeah.
So my start at the start of Victor being the first current Rotherham United player of the 21st century to get called up into an international team is correct.
It is. First Swedish, I think, as well. I'm pretty
Good, Danny. I mean, let's be fair. It's only correct because you couldn't be asked to go back past 2000.
Fair. Records are hard to come by without paying for them before 2000.
Yeah.
A couple of bits on other teams. Let's just cover. Blackpool are at home to Coventry. Coventry, we know how good Coventry can be, so that's going to be a tough game for Blackpool. Huddersfield are away at Millwall. They're not coming out of their way anything, I don't think. Cardiff obviously at home, away to us, and Wigan are away to the inconsistent Watford. Those sort of teams that are playing through there. John Mills is on Cardiff. I think it surprised me. Look at most of through Cardiff's side, and they do have some good players, but clearly not enough as the league position states they are. Damien Cowell just seems to need ball on the floor more. Nicholas Skidmore press well and play with high intensity. Nick, let's look through some players, Danny. Nicholas Skidmore. Lindsay needs to start for me, he says, with Kyoso 2 or put Fosso back on the left, which would probably mean dropping Shane Ferguson, possibly. And maybe that might work because you could put Fosso out there and put a second striker and give Washington a go from the start, because Washington and Hugo have looked good when they played together.
Yeah, they have. I mean, when Washington came on against Preston, some of the runs we were making looked really good. But again, we just didn't move the ball quick enough or look up to see the run he was making. And you could tell Washington was getting more and more frustrated with it. So maybe playing from the start, like you said, tweak the system just a little bit, and it could give us even more option, because then you've got Hugo being, a big man attacker who makes runs into the 6-yard box and gets on headers. You could have Kyoso providing the crosses from the right-hand side, potentially overlapping at times with Chio. And then Fosu being quick on the left side to add that different pace dynamic on the opposite flank. And then Washington, being Washington and being your press up top. To me, that sounds like a good idea. It's just, will it be put into play? I really hope it does, because even if you put Lindsay into it and having that bit more of a bite in midfield, it's still quite an attacking-based setup, isn't it? Yeah. So for me, I would bring actually Blackett into centre-back and have Humphreys and Blackett as your two at the back. The only thing is that Kelder had an off game, so he might actually retain his place. But then you have to think, is that too many changes to make in the space of a week?
True. Yeah, I think that's true. Blackett coming in. If Blackett could do even 70 minutes, Mick, Blackett comes in for me. He gives you that balance in the back four.
Yeah.
And then you can give Wes a rest and put Peltier back where Peltier needs to be, because it's clear Wes needs some time out.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Agreed. It definitely does. He's got his confidence is shot, completely shot, and he definitely does. So there's a possibility that Bailey Wright might be available for some of the game on Saturday, if certainly not all. So Blackett and Wright to share that responsibility next to Cam Humphreys. We need somebody back there with a voice, somebody who's going to organise.
Shirley says 4-4-2 as opposed to 4-3-3. Don't have a problem. And it depends on how strong Cardiff's midfield is. And that's obviously down to Matt Taylor. If Cardiff are particularly strong in the middle, then I wouldn't like to see that body taken out of there. I don't think they do have that strong a midfield. So I think you possibly could go 4-4-2 potentially. We'll have to wait and see how that goes. So let's do this comment. So the phrase...
Bear with checking Coventry. Coventry. I've done it again. It's Cardiff, not Coventry. Oh, dear. It's like Tattersall all over again. Cardiff, well, their last starting 11 anyway, was... Well, Footmob says it was a flat 4 of Philogin, Bidis on the left, Wintle and Sawyers in the middle, and then Ojo on the right. So it looks like it's a 4-4-2 that they play as well. So maybe 4-4-2 to match that, maybe.
Yeah, possibly. Also, we complained a few times earlier in the season about us having to play on a Wednesday night when our opposition played Tuesday. Well, we played Tuesday and Cardiff played Wednesday. So if we don't win on Saturday, we're going to look like mugs on this podcast for complaining so much earlier in the season. More than we already do.
We're set for a change.
So yeah, we'll get some predictions in a moment. So we have the phrase from Tobias. So thank you very much. Has been with us. So if you see Mick on Saturday, he'll be maybe at the pub pre-game. The phrase where he will give you the signed Victor shirt is Jag Alskar Hammarby, which I have got a translation on my phone, which we can listen to.
Jag älskar Hammarby.
Did you hear that?
No.
Mm-hmm.
I heard it. I didn't hear what she said.
It's Jag Alskar Hammarby, which means I love Hammarby, which is Tobias and Victor's team that they support.
The only thing is, you have to say it in Swedish to make. You can't say it in English.
Yes.
So it's Jag Alskar Hammarby.
Jag Alskar Hammarby.
Jag Alskar. You can't have it, Danny. You don't win it. So thank you, Mick. Don't forget the shirt, because that'd be really stupid if you And we'll take a hat as well for anybody that pick. If it's the second person that comes up to you, can have one of the hats as well. I think that's nice, isn't it? Yeah,
Lovely.
it's a consolation prize. And we will pick something out in a minute from the comments to win at one of the hats. Mick, give me your prediction for the 6-pointer on Saturday, please.
We're going for it Saturday. We're going to win 3-1.
3-1. I were hoping you give us a clean sheet. I just wouldn't mind something nice and comfortable, like a 6-1.
3-0.
3-0. Pressured you into that. Like it.
Yep.
Danny?
We will reverse the game down at Cardiff, so we're going to win 1-0.
Too stressful. I will go 2-0.
You sure you want 2-0? It's dangerous score 2-0, Matt.
It is, to be fair, but I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. Okay. A few people mentioned the comment about the Cardiff keeper. Their main keeper should be back now. I think they did get consecutive red cards. I think one of them will only be one game or something like that. So they should be back to normal for that one. Tobias thinks 2-0 as well. Nicholas Skidmore 2-1. Obviously Harry 2-1. Rackler 4-0. And Dean Catley says 6-1 if Blackpool can do it.
Yeah.
Jalen Simpson's 2-0. Steve Grundy 2-1. Shelley says, imagine rocking up to Mick and saying that, and he's forgotten the shirt.
You know,
obviously, that would not surprise me
very well, Shelley.
Yeah. Josh Youngsley says 2-0. Kim Hayward 1-1. John Morell says 1-1. Both teams with too much to lose. Kimbo says 1-0 as well. Paramed says if Harding and Peltier start 3-1 to Cardiff, if not 2-0 to Rotherham. Okay. 3-2 to the Millers, says Reg. That sounds again stressful. Shelley, somebody is going to take a hiding. He says 5-0. Wow. I like it a lot.
Hopefully it's us doing that, because if Cardiff do it, it's going to be a long afternoon.
Yeah. So there we go. That's the show. Mick, would you like to pick somebody in our comments to win a hat?
Oh, why am I? I'm going to do it right. I'm going to scroll it down with my eyes shut and stop it. There you go. Who's that?
I don't know. Power Mad.
Hey.
You win one of the New York Talks hats. Contact us through Twitter, or if you want to email us, ufcpod@gmail.com, I think it is. Let us know. We'll bring it on Saturday, so if you go to the game, let us know. We'll take a couple of other hats in the game. So if you see us on Saturday, pull us, and if we've got a hat, we will give you one. And if you see Mick, what does he need to say, Danny?
I've forgotten the Swedish for it.
Oh, my volume's gone down on my phone. Hang on. My phone's not speaking to me now. Jag Alskar Hammarby.
That's the word I can't remember what I was in Swedish. Jag Alskar Hammarby.
Yeah. And if you want a Swedish team to follow, Hammarby are a lot of fun. Go follow Hammarby. Tobias will like us for that one. John Morell says he wants a blue hat. I mean, a bit awkward, to be honest with you, a blue hat. Yeah. Anyway, are we wearing these Sweden shirts to game on Saturday?
Oh, I'm not wearing this one, am I?
You're not wearing that one, no.
You'll be pleased to know, Powermad, that I've got a shirt. No, whoever comes up, I've got a shirt underneath it. It's not next to my skin, so it'll not be sweaty.
Yeah.
Well, not too sweaty.
To be fair, I don't know what to do. Do I stick with superstition and wear the home shirt I've always worn, or shake it up and wear the Sweden shirt and get the badge in for Victor?
Well, this shirt, if we all remember from last season's podcast, the one I'm wearing is the lucky shirt. We are still unbeaten wearing this shirt so far.
Is that the one that also sticks to the back of the chair because of the number?
Yeah, it's all come off at back. So I'm going to wear this on Saturday to celebrate Victor getting called up. But also, we need the look. To be honest with you,
I'll wear my Sweden shirt. Why not?
Do it. Exactly. Hopefully, Victor would love to see some Swedish shirts as well.
Yeah.
Finally, Mike the Miller, who is the referee? It's Oliver Langford.
Oh, Christ.
Well, we haven't complained about Mr. Martin's tight shirts or his loud whistle or anything like that. So we've done well. We've done really well. Anything else? We've done an hour and 6 minutes. We've talked absolute nonsense. We've given some hats away. Anything else that we need to talk about?
I don't think so, do you?
I think so. Danny, anything?
Not that comes to mind, no.
Jag älskar Hammarby.
Yeah, that.
There we go. Right. Thank you all for being with us. If you haven't subscribed to us already, please do so on YouTube. I think we're creeping up to 1,000 already, so please do subscribe on there. If you are audio listening, please do subscribe as well. Give us a 5-star rating if you haven't done already. We would very much appreciate that. We will be back on Sunday evening to review the Cardiff game. And then we'll see what we're doing about the next week or so. With so many players being called up to the internationals, we'll probably continue doing some episodes through the international break. We will see. We'll see what happens. John Morell's have to unsubscribe due to lack of blue hats. We might work out another colour. We can't. I don't think we can double them.
No.
What's your away kit, John?
Yeah, well, the yellow. Don't they play? Didn't they got a famous yellow kit? Then what? They're Birmingham. We'll work some out. John. Mick, thank you, everybody. Thank you for being with us. Wrap that shirt up nice and neat for us, yeah?
Yeah, man.
Fantastic. Danny?
Bag.
Shelley says we need a Victor watch. It's on a Friday night as well. Danny, thank you for being with us, and I'll see you Saturday as well.
See you Saturday.
Thank you, everybody. See you soon.
Cheers.
Ravel.